The child who changed everything. The light from the child's birth still pulsed gently through the walls of conquered dawn, humming like the whisper of a newborn star. Systems that had been fried moments earlier rebooted themselves as if restored by an unseen hand. Where before the battle outside had been a chaos of alarms and shouted commands, now the comms across the station were silent, almost reverent. And then came a single word, spoken by hundreds of alien voices in perfect unison. Heir. Raiden stood at the viewport, gazing out at the aftermath. The Vral had not fled. They had stopped. Their world ships, vast biomechanical nightmares of black stone and glistening bone, hung silently just beyond firing range, still, watchful. Something had changed. I've never seen them hesitate, Captain Kirshner murmured beside him. It's like they're waiting. Raiden nodded. For what? Ilara cradled her son in the chamber of first light, eyes fixed on his face. He was silent now, awake. His eyes, those strange shifting pools of color, blinked slowly, as if watching things that weren't there. Data, energy, futures. He sees more than we do, whispered Dr. Annika Vosaranavel, brought from her chamber. To witness the birth nodded weakly. He doesn't just see, he remembers. Remembers what? Ilara asked, tightening her hold. The first flame, Sahrana replied. Before stars had names, before war. He holds the memory of what we once were, and what we must become. Suddenly, the walls around them trembled, not from attack but something deeper, a presence. A voice without sound. Ilara turned to the child, and in her mind she heard words not spoken aloud. Mother, they are coming, but not to kill. At the outer defense ring, a single Vral ship began to move, but it did not fire. Instead, it split, opened like a great black flower, revealing a structure within. From it descended a single vessel, shaped like a teardrop, forged of glistening metal and dark light. It came not with weapons, but with a flag of surrender. Raiden's jaw clenched. They want to talk? Who? Asked Kirchner. Raiden narrowed his eyes. Whoever they serve. The Accord leaders gathered in the Grand Chamber, now reborn with symbols from every race. Holographic flags shimmered beside carved stone emblems. The room felt different now, less a war council, more a council of destiny. Raiden and Ilara stood together, their child asleep in a biosling against her chest. Then the Vral emissary entered. It was nothing like anyone expected. A woman, or something shaped like one. Towering, translucent skin faintly glowing with veins of stardust. Her eyes were black pools, but within them shimmered galaxies. She bore no armor, only a single band around her throat, etched in the oldest galactic language. Servant of the Queen Eternal. Silence gripped the chamber. Raiden stepped forward, hand near his weapon, but Ilara raised hers. No weapons, she said. The emissary approached, bowed low, and said in a voice that felt like time itself, We come not to fight. We come to plead. The Marn, Vral were not born. They were created by a now-dead species who sought to preserve life by consuming that which it feared. The Queen Eternal was the last of their kind, embedded in the Vral genetic code. She had watched for eons, guiding her hive to purge instability, eliminate chaos, and crush anomaly. But now something had changed. The child. His cry had touched her, and she had awakened. I speak for the Queen, said the emissary. She asks, to see the child. The chamber erupted in protest. Trap. Assassination attempt, genetic theft, but Ilara silenced them with a single phrase. If we demand trust, we must give it. The meeting was arranged in a sealed sanctuary, a dome of starlight overlooking the galactic plain. Ilara entered first, with the child in her arms. The Queen waited. Her form was suspended in a gravity cocoon, a towering figure of ancient matter. She had no face, only a shifting halo of light. When she spoke, it was with 1,000 voices layered upon each other, You carry the convergence. Alara said nothing. The child is more than heir. He is judge. Now Alara stepped forward. Judge of what? Of us. The queen lowered her energy field. Touch me. Alara hesitated, then stepped forward and pressed her child's hand gently against the queen's form. And in that moment, everything changed. A light spread outward, slow but powerful. Memories passed through them all, of empires burning, of life rising from ash, of love between species and sacrifice between strangers. The queen saw herself, not as destroyer but as a relic clinging to an age of fear. And she wept. The dome glowed bright, and when the light faded, the queen's body had dissolved into motes of energy. A single voice remained. It is done. He is the new flame. In the following weeks, something miraculous happened. The Vral ships deactivated, ceasing hostilities. Their world ships released countless prisoners and stasis vaults. Worlds once consumed, now returned. All across the galaxy, voices rose, not in rage but awe. The child, now known by a name chosen by both cultures, Kalen Vos Rael, became the symbol of a new epoch. Raiden and Alara were no longer leaders of factions. They were guardians of a future. Years passed. Under the Unity Accords, the Council of Flame was formed, rotating leadership from each species, bound by shared vision. The Firekeeper tradition was reborn, not as mysticism, but as a way to preserve culture, peace, and truth. Humanity, once seen as a young and impulsive race, had become the cornerstone of that council, not because of their power, but because of Raiden's choices and Alara's love. Kalen grew quickly, his hybrid nature accelerating development. At age 5, he could speak all known galactic languages. At age 6, he walked into a dying forest on Andariel Prime and brought it back to life with a single touch. By age 7, he was named Speaker of Light by 7 warring cultures who had not agreed on anything in 1,000 years. But he never saw himself as a ruler, only a bridge. One day, far from the capital station, Raiden and Alara took Kalen to a quiet world, a place without politics or cameras. They sat under a blue sky, watching. Alien birds fly in lazy spirals. Do you miss war? Kalen asked suddenly. Raiden looked at him. I never wanted it, but you were good at it. Raiden smiled faintly. Sometimes being good at something doesn't mean it's right. Kalen nodded. Alara took her son's hand. What will you do, Kalen? The boy looked up at the stars. There are more voices out there beyond this galaxy. I want to hear them. Raiden's breath caught. You want to leave? Alara asked. Kalen smiled. Not yet. He placed his small hand over her heart. I'm still learning. From you. And when he rose years later to speak before a council of 1,000 species, he said, I was born in the fires of war. My father was human, strong, fierce, loyal. My mother was Andarieli, wise, brave, enduring. But I am not one or the other. I am something new. I am the echo of what can be when we stop fearing each other. And the flame that burns in me burns in all of you. A thunderous silence followed. Then one by one they stood. 1,000 species. One accord. And so ends the tale of a child born not to rule but to unite. Of a princess who gave up a throne to gain a family. Of a soldier who fought, not to conquer but to protect. And of humanity once overlooked, now forever remembered, as the keepers of the flame. The last Firekeeper. The station was no longer just a waypoint. It had become legend. After the Blood Pact, whispers spread across the galaxy, of a child born from 2 races, guarded by love, prophesied by fear. On backwater worlds and in star-soaked palaces, rulers debated whether to kneel or strike, but none debated for long. Because the Vral had begun to move. They emerged from the unnamed nebula in dark swarms, world ships the size of moons. And everywhere, They went, stars dimmed. Whole systems fell silent within hours, not conquered, extinguished. Raiden stood on the command deck of Conquered Dawn, staring at the galactic chart. Blinking red clusters grew daily. Dead colonies, silent relays, planets gone dark. How long until they reach us, he asked. 4 days, replied Captain Kirchner, her voice tight. At best. And Earth? She hesitated. 6. Raiden's jaw tightened. They're cutting straight through the spiral arm. To get to the child, she added quietly. The unspoken truth weighed the air. Earth was no longer the final target. It was a step. The child, his child with Ilara, was the end game. Ilara sat beneath a glowing canopy of vines in the biochamber. Her eyes were closed, her breathing slow, syncing with the life inside her. It spoke now, not in words, but in emotions. Pulses of insight, warning, even curiosity. It was learning and dreaming. Today, she saw a fire, not destruction, a torch, and a symbol burned across her vision, an ancient sigil, half forgotten by most of her kind. The mark of the Firekeeper. Long ago, when the Andarieli were tribal and not imperial, Firekeepers were the guardians of memory, spirit, and prophecy. Not rulers, but guides. She touched her stomach. Could the child be a Firekeeper reborn, or something? Beyond, she sought the one person who might know. In the deepest levels of the station, sealed away from sight, lay a fragile figure, ancient by Andarieli standards. Once a high counselor, now a prisoner. Her name was Saranavel, and she was the last living Firekeeper, stripped of power when the Empire turned to cold logic and war machines. Ilara stood at her cell. The old woman looked up with sunken eyes and rasped, "So the prodigal returns, with human blood in her belly no less." Ilara bowed. "You warned them, didn't you? About what was coming?" Sarana laughed softly. "They called it superstition. They silenced me before I could name the enemy." "The Vral?" "No," she said. "The mirror." Ilara frowned. "What?" "The Vral are not invaders. They are reflections of what we chose to become. Cold, merciless, hungry for power. That's why they only rise when balance is broken." She sat forward with surprising strength. "And now, child, you carry the answer." Ilara was quiet. "What is it?" "Your child is not a weapon. It is a node, a living convergence point, part human resilience, part Andarieli memory. But it is becoming more. The child has reached into the past and touched our future." Ilara whispered, "What do I do?" "Burn the throne," Sarana said, "and light the flame." When Ilara returned to Raiden, she was different, calmer, more certain. Raiden saw it in her walk, in her eyes, in the way she no longer flinched when others stared. "What happened?" he asked. "I spoke to the last Firekeeper, and she said I must burn the throne." Raiden looked at her. "You mean overthrow the Empire?" "No," she replied. "Something deeper. The throne is not just a seat of power. It's an idea of rule through fear, of strength through division. We both know what that leads to." "War," Raiden said. "Extinction," Ilara corrected. In a rare joint broadcast, Ilara and Raiden spoke together, directly to the galaxy. Raiden addressed humanity. "Ilara and I stand as proof of what can be created when we choose unity over conquest. Our child represents more than a bond. It represents a future where fear does not drive our evolution. We invite all species, all peoples, to the Concord Summit. Not to debate, but to build something new." Ilara spoke next, voice strong. "We do not ask for allegiance. We ask for courage. Join us, not in war, but in defiance of the Vral's prophecy. They believe we will break. Let us prove them wrong." The broadcast ended, and the galaxy trembled. Ships began to arrive. Not fleets, but ambassadors. Broken kings, from the Nectar Swarm. refugee queens from the dying Cyrilline, even the Gore, ancient enemies of humans, sent envoys. In the station's grand chamber, species who had warred for centuries now sat side by side, but not all were allies. Whispers echoed through the halls, of assassins plotting to kill the unborn, Heir, of politicians seeking to steal genetic samples, of rogue AI seeking to correct the anomaly. Security was doubled. Raiden rarely slept. And yet, in that chaos, something remarkable happened. A declaration was signed. The Unity Accords. For the first time in galactic history, representatives of 16 major civilizations agreed to fight as one. But they still needed a leader, and the question was clear. Would that leader be a general? Or a mother? Ilara stood before the assembly. She did not plead. She did not bow. "I will not lead you with weapons," she said. "But I will stand with you because I know what we are fighting for. Not just survival, but rebirth. Not an empire, but a future our children won't fear." Then she said the words no one expected. "I will give birth on the battlefield if I must." Gasps filled the chamber. Ilara raised her voice. "Let the child be born not in shadows, not in secret, but in the light of unity." And that night, the vote passed. Ilara was named First Flame of the Accord, not Queen, not Empress, Firekeeper. 3 days later, the Vral arrived. Their world ships blotted out the stars. In orbit around the scorched planet Talcaris, the Accord fleets gathered, a ragtag armada of once warring species. Raiden stood aboard the command vessel Verity. His armor gleamed silver, marked by Ilara's sigil, a phoenix wrapped in starlight. He opened a channel to all fleets. "This is Commander Raiden Voss. Today, we do not fight as humans, or Andarieli, or Korath. We fight as one. For every child, yet unborn, for every home we lost, and for the flame that still burns in us all." Across 1,000 ships, lights blinked in agreement, and the battle began. In the heart of conquered dawn, Ilara went into labor. Dr. Anika Vo, pale and focused, prepared the chamber. "Are you sure about this? We can evacuate." "No," Ilara said. "The child must be born here, in the center of what we built." The walls trembled as shockwaves echoed from orbit, but Ilara remained calm, focused. As the pain surged through her, she gritted her teeth and whispered, "You were born for this." Outside, the Vral unleashed living storms. Inside, a new life emerged. With the final cry, the room went silent. Then, a pulse of light exploded from the chamber. Every sensor on the station fried. Every ship in orbit halted mid-fire. And from that, light. The child's cry rang out, not weak or frightened, but resonant, echoing across psychic channels, across minds, across species. A voice of oneness. Even the Vral paused. In their hive mind, a ripple of confusion passed. They felt uncertainty. For the first time in eons, Ilara held the child in her arms. A boy, skin pale gold, eyes shifting between blue and amethyst. His heartbeat sounded like music, and on his chest a glowing symbol, the mark of the Firekeeper. She looked up as Raiden entered, bloodied from battle, but alive. He dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. "He's beautiful," he whispered. Ilara smiled. "He's hope." And as the Vral began to retreat, confused, afraid, unraveling before something they didn't understand, the Accord fleets pushed forward, not to destroy, but to protect. The child who changed everything. The last hope of Andariel. The twin sons of Andariel fell slowly behind the violet peaks of the Tristar Mountains, casting long shadows over the capital city of Lurien. The royal towers, grown from living crystal, shimmered with bioluminescent veins pulsing like the heart of a sleeping beast. In the highest chamber of the grand spire, Empress Carol stood at the balcony, her long lavender robe catching the wind. Her face, usually expressionless in front of her people, now trembled with quiet despair. Behind her, the council waited in silence, None dared to speak. They had delivered the news just moments ago. Her only daughter, Princess Alara, was infertile. After 29 solar rotations of hope, treatments, and silent prayers to the ancient stars, the bloodline of House Ilarion, the oldest in the galaxy, would end with her. Empress Carol turned slowly, her golden eyes fixed on the chief biologist. "You're certain?" she asked, though her voice betrayed she already knew. The scientist bowed low. "We've used every gene-binding method known to Andariel science. Her reproductive lattice is inactive, irreversibly so." The room remained. Still, none spoke of what this truly meant. Without a direct heir, the noble houses would fight for control. Andariel, once a beacon of wisdom and harmony among the stars, would fall into civil war. The Empress looked at her daughter, standing quietly by the crystal mirror. Ilara's silver skin glowed softly, her violet markings dim. She didn't cry, she only stood still, as though trying to disappear. Later that evening, as dusk deepened into the eternal twilight of Andariel's orbit, Carol called a private meeting with her advisor, Lord Tyros. He was old, even by Andariel standards, with eyes that had seen the fall of empires and the rise of monsters. He listened carefully as the Empress paced. "They will come for her," Carol said, her voice sharp. "They'll whisper she's unworthy, demand I step down, offer some distant cousin with fabricated blood tests. This empire will tear itself apart." Tyros folded his arms. "There may be one option left, a dangerous one." She paused. "Say it." "There's a species," he began carefully, "recently added to the interstellar trade accord. They call themselves humans, primitive in many ways, but adaptable, fierce, and above all biologically chaotic. Our scientists studied them when they first emerged. Their genetics operate with randomness we can't replicate. Some believe it's the secret to their unusual resilience." Carol's brow furrowed. "You're suggesting we mix our bloodline with theirs?" "Not publicly, not yet. But yes, a diplomatic gesture. We offer them Princess Alara as a token of alliance. A royal guest protected by protocol, bound by peace. Their scientists will think of it as a study. They love studies. If by some miracle, their biology can awaken hers." She could conceive. The Empress finished, her voice low. He nodded. "And should that happen, the child would be half Andariel, half human. A biological heir, legal under succession law, and one that binds our people to theirs." Carol turned back to the stars. It was unthinkable to entrust her only child to a species so young. But what choice was left? The other noble houses were watching her palace like vultures in orbit. That night, Alara was summoned to the Hall of Silence, where great decisions were made and sealed forever. She walked in silently, her long silver hair trailing behind her. Her mother waited alone. No guards, no advisors, just the two of them under the ancient dome carved from stardust crystal. Carol didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, "Do you trust me?" Alara looked at her mother. "Always." "Then you must go to Earth." Alara's face didn't change, but her markings flared slightly in surprise. "You'll be a diplomat, officially," Carol continued, "an honored guest. But the truth is greater. You carry the last hope of our people, Alara. If the humans can awaken what lies dormant in you, then perhaps our future survives." Alara looked down, her hands trembling slightly. "And if they cannot, then you'll live free, away from this palace, this cage." The Empress touched her daughter's cheek softly. "You'll know what it means to walk among those who laugh with their whole chest and weep with salt in their eyes. That is the gift I give you." 3 days later, a silver transport lifted from Andariel's orbit. Aboard it, Princess Alara sat alone in a room designed for royalty but filled with silence. Her attendants had not come. It was protocol. She was no longer just a princess. She was a hope wrapped in flesh, hurled into the unknown. The humans had sent a vessel named Unities, flame, sleek and unfamiliar but warm in tone. The greeting crew spoke with smiles and offered strange foods that smelled of earth spices. A tall woman in a navy blue uniform introduced herself as Commander Naomi Trent. Her eyes were kind but alert. "Welcome to Earth's diplomatic arm, Princess Ilara. We're honored to host you." Ilara bowed in return. "The honor is shared. May this meeting write a new chapter in our stars." As the ship slipped into hyperwarp, neither Ilara nor Naomi knew that a future heir was already written in the genetic chaos of human touch. The story of two species, one fading, one rising, had just begun. The human soldier, who didn't bow. The human vessel. Unity's flame traveled silently through the deep folds of hyperspace, its metallic hull reflecting distorted stars. Within it, Princess Ilara of Andariel walked through the quiet halls, her bare feet gliding over soft synthetic floors, the scent of disinfectant and lavender unfamiliar but oddly calming. Her mind wandered through the memory of her mother's words, still echoing in her thoughts like distant thunder. "You carry the last hope of our people." For 3 days, no one disturbed her solitude. Commander Naomi Trent had offered a crew of human assistants and cultural guides, but Ilara had declined them all. She preferred to observe from afar, often sitting near the transparent observation dome, watching the crew below. They laughed often. Humans had such expressive bodies. Their faces lit up like flares when they smiled, and their arguments were never quiet or subtle. It was raw, honest. She began to study them not with scanners or neural links, but by sight and emotion. One man caught her attention more than the others. He didn't wear the sharp navy blue uniform like most of the command crew. Instead, he wore worn brown tactical fabric with patches, boots scuffed, sleeves rolled up over muscular forearms. His skin was a rich bronze tone, and a faint scar crossed one eyebrow. He worked with the engineering unit, but carried himself like a soldier. He laughed less than the others and spoke in short, quiet sentences. But when he spoke, the crew listened. Ilara watched him repair a malfunctioning stabilizer node one afternoon, his hands deft and confident. When the job was done, he didn't wait for applause. He simply nodded to the others and walked away, vanishing into the maintenance levels. She asked Naomi his name that evening during a diplomatic dinner. "Him?" Naomi smirked as she sipped her tea. "That's Sergeant Raiden Holt, technically off duty, but he volunteered to join the escort. For security reasons. Earth's military didn't want to send only diplomats. They thought it wise to send someone less polished." "Is he a warrior?" Ilara asked. Naomi nodded. "One of the best. Served in the Titan conflict. Quiet type. Doesn't like politics. Or aliens." Ilara tilted her head. "Then why is he here?" Naomi shrugged. "Said something about not trusting humans to do first contact, right? Typical Raiden. Thinks he's protecting us all." Ilara didn't press further. But later that night, as the ship entered orbit above Earth's moon, she found herself wandering the lower levels. No guards followed her. No servants. Just her own steps echoing gently in the hum of engines. She found Raiden alone in the weapons bay, checking calibrations on a small plasma rifle. He glanced up as the door opened, then froze slightly when he recognized her. His posture stiffened as though unsure whether to salute or flee. "I didn't expect royalty in the armory," he said dryly, not bowing. Ilara stepped in calmly. "I didn't expect warriors to hide beneath engineering badges." He gave her a faint smirk. "Not hiding, just not a fan of standing around in dress uniforms pretending I care about politics." "I was told you don't like aliens," he shrugged. "I don't like anyone until I've got a reason to." She looked around at the weapons array. "Do you think I am a reason?" Raiden paused. The silence stretched between them. Then he said, "I don't know yet, but you walked in here without guards. You're not what I expected." "I never am," she said softly. He set down the rifle. "Why are you really here, Princess?" Ilara walked closer, her eyes shining faintly with inner light. "To see if your kind can do what mine no longer can. To see if chaos can awaken order." Raiden frowned. "That sounds like a riddle." "It's life," she replied. "My people chose order so strictly that we forgot how to evolve. We're dying by perfection, Raiden studied her. And you think humans are the answer? I think your species dances on the edge of ruin, yet sings while doing it. I think you fall and rise faster than we can predict. I think you make the stars nervous. He chuckled, leaning against the weapon rack. First time anyone's accused me of cosmic anxiety. Ilara took another step closer. You didn't bow. I don't bow. Good. They stared at each other for a moment, and something passed between them, unspoken but unmistakable. Not romance. Not yet. Something older. The recognition of two creatures shaped by duty but hungry for something real. Later that night, when Ilara returned to her quarters, she found a message on her datapad. A coded one from the Andariel High Council. Status required. Any physical compatibility observed with human hosts? She stared at the question, cold, clinical, as if she were already a specimen. Her hand trembled slightly, then she erased the message and closed the screen. She thought of Raiden Holt, of his rough hands, his scarred eyes, the way he didn't bow, the way he had looked at her. Not as a symbol, not as a dying race, but as a woman. The next day, when they arrived at Earth's diplomatic station in orbit, Ilara stepped off the Unity's flame not as a guest but as a seeker, and for the first time since leaving Andariel, she whispered to herself, maybe I won't just survive. Maybe I'll live. What she didn't know yet, what no one on either side could know, was that in less than 3 Earth weeks, the dormant genes in her body would stir, and inside her, the spark of something never seen in the galaxy would ignite. Not an experiment, not an heir, but a future. The spark that shouldn't exist, the Earth diplomatic station hung in orbit like a fragile pearl tethered to the void. From the inside, it was a cathedral of glass and alloy, wide, spiraling walkways with gardens suspended in artificial gravity. Sunlight filtered through plasma domes to mimic the warmth of real skies. It was designed not just as a meeting place but a symbol, Earth's declaration to the stars that it had risen from the ashes of war, and now stood ready to speak among galaxies. Princess Ilara stepped onto the polished white floors of the central atrium wearing the ceremonial robes of her lineage, woven blue strands from the first trees of Andariel, lined in glimmering silver. Her veil flowed behind her like mist, and even the human delegates paused as she passed, but she felt no peace. Not because she doubted the mission. No, that much was clear. Her people needed this alliance, and her womb had become the strange battlefield where legacy and survival would clash. What troubled her was what had already begun deep inside her body. In the past day, her senses had shifted. Sounds seemed sharper. Lights made her stomach churn. And once, while passing by a group of human children in a habitat dome, she had smelled something, fresh bread, laughter, salt, and her knees had gone weak with longing. It was happening. The hybridization process, the beginning of something unnatural and irreversible. But she said nothing to the doctors. Not yet. Not until she understood the source of the spark. She found Raiden Holt again that evening. He wasn't in his quarters, or the military dorms, or even in the training sectors where others trained with grav sabers and pulse rifles. Instead, she discovered him in the Botanic Dome, seated under a simulated oak tree, legs folded, arms resting on his knees. His eyes were closed. He heard her before she spoke. "You walk quieter than most humans," he said without opening them. "But your presence, it hums." Ilara stepped closer, boots sinking into soft synthetic grass. "Your instincts are sharper than most soldiers. 20 years on the outer front, you either learn to feel danger, or you die. And do you feel danger now?" He opened his eyes slowly. "I feel something." She sat beside him, careful, not to wrinkle her veil. They stared out at the fake sunset blooming across the dome, its golden hue diffused by atmospheric projectors. Raiden asked, "Do you miss your planet?" "More than anything," she said softly. "But I never truly belong there." Everything was arranged, predictable, my birth, my duties, and even my thoughts were monitored for optimization. When I left, I expected to feel grief, but I feel relief. Raiden turned to her. You feel alive now. I feel like I'm falling, and I'm not afraid of it. A long silence followed. Then she said, You've seen war, more than most, yet you don't speak of it. I've buried friends under alien moons, he said flatly. Saw good people vaporized for lines drawn by people they'd never meet. I fight when I have to, but peace, that's harder. Requires patience, faith. Ilara looked down at her hands, the faint silver glow of her skin flickering. And what about love? Raiden tensed slightly. That's even harder. Why? Because when you're trained to kill anything that threatens your species, it's not easy to trust feelings, especially the kind that make you vulnerable. She placed a hand on his. What if vulnerability is what saves us? Raiden didn't move. He didn't pull away either. She said quietly, Something is happening to me. Since I left Andariel, since I met you. Raiden looked at her fully now, eyes dark and searching. What kind of something? My body is changing, fast, faster than the scientists said it would. My blood reads different, my mind too, and I don't think it's because of Earth, I think it's because of you. He sat still for a long time as if absorbing a blow. You think I triggered it? I think you're more than just a soldier. I think you carry something, some frequency, some pulse that my body recognizes. Something primal, something true. Raiden shook his head slowly. I'm just a man. No, she whispered. You're human, and that may be the rarest thing in the galaxy. Raiden stood and stepped back. You should talk to your scientists, not to me. I don't trust them, but you trust me? I do. He exhaled and rubbed his scarred brow. I'm not your answer, princess, but you might be the beginning of it. That night, Ilara locked her door and ran scans on her DNA. What she saw stunned her. The hybridization was accelerating exponentially. Normally, cross-species genetic binding took months, sometimes years, to stabilize. Hers had begun in 3 days. Now it was stabilizing, shifting, adapting to something human, not just in theory, but in real physical form. And there it was, a second pulse, not hers, a heartbeat, new, fragile, growing. Life. Her breath caught. Her vision blurred. She placed a hand on her stomach. She was pregnant. Not just a symbolic bride of alliance, not just a token of diplomacy, but a mother. And the father was Raiden Holt, though not by touch, not by choice. Not yet. By spark. By something beyond understanding. Something born of ancient genetics and modern consequence. And it was real. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. Instead, she smiled. Because for the first time in all the long history of Andariel and Earth, something had happened that no government could command, no scientist could design. A child was coming, not just a blend of two worlds, but a symbol of what they could become. A child of war and wonder. The announcement broke across the diplomatic sectors like a seismic tremor. Ilara of Andariel, bonded emissary to Earth, was pregnant. The words appeared subtly at first, buried in encrypted medical records, whispered in scientific circles, but data never stayed hidden for long, and when the news reached both human and Andarieli High Command, it set off alarms not heard since the start of the intergalactic reconciliation accords. Because Ilara wasn't just pregnant, she was carrying a hybrid, the first of its kind, and it hadn't been planned. Not by scientists, not by diplomats, not by anyone. General Soren Rell of the Andrieli High Senate slammed his clawed hand on the holographic table, shattering the display of Earth's orbital station. Unacceptable, he growled. This is no alliance, this is contamination. Beside him, the prime voice of Andariel kept her expression smooth, but her inner glow dimmed in concern. It cannot be reversed. The pregnancy is real. Early scans show a stable genome. One that combines the best of both races. Then we must act. Retrieve her. Terminate the fetus. She is a princess, not a lab rat. She is our future, Rel snarled. Or was. Until you handed her over like a trinket to the humans. She chose peace, the voice replied quietly. And this child may be the price. On Earth, the response was colder but no less dangerous. Admiral Marcus Drake, commander of Earth's Interstellar Coalition, stared at the news through a narrowed gaze. She's what? He said to his aide. Confirmed. Genetic signatures. The child is part human. Whose? Silence. Then the aide whispered. Raiden Holt. Dre exhaled. Of course it's him. Years ago, Raiden had disobeyed a direct order to retreat from a burning colony under alien attack. He'd saved thousands, but humiliated Earth's leadership in the process. Since then, they kept him close, but never trusted him again. Now, he was at the center of something they couldn't control, a miracle or a mistake. Either way, it threatened everything. Raiden stood alone at the edge of the Arboretum platform, watching the Earth turn slowly beneath them. It looked peaceful from here, a distant blue light, fragile, unaware. Behind him, the door hissed open. He didn't need to turn. I heard, he said. Alara stepped beside him. Her robe was gone. She wore only a simple Earth jumpsuit now, her hair braided back tightly, but her glow had changed. Softer, pulsing, protective. You're not angry? She asked. He shook his head. No, just thinking what it means. I didn't expect this either. I believe you. They stood in silence. Then she added, They want me gone, both sides. Raiden nodded. You're no longer a symbol. You're a threat. Because your child, it's not a treaty. It's proof. Proof of what? That we're not just compatible. We're connected. That maybe we're not as different as we thought. She placed her hand over her stomach. They'll come for me. Then they'll have to go through me. She looked at him sharply. You would fight your own people? Raiden turned to her. I fight for what's right. And right now that means protecting you and the child. Her lips parted, a flicker of emotion rushing across her face. Hope. Fear. Something deeper. We can't run forever, she said. Then we don't run, he replied. We go public. It was a gamble that could have cost him his life. But Raiden walked into the central broadcast deck of the orbital station, bypassed every lockout with his security codes, and activated the planetary transmission array, and, standing beside him, tall, calm, radiant, was Alara. The message went out in every language on every waveband from every satellite. This is Raiden Holt, first commander of Earth's Outer Defense Unit, he began, eyes hard as steel. And, beside me stands Princess Alara of Andariel, not as a prisoner, not as a token, but as my partner. Alara stepped forward. We bring you a message not of war, but of truth. A new life grows within me, one not chosen by science, but by destiny. Raiden continued. This child is not an accident. It is a promise. That unity between our species is not only possible, but powerful. If you strike us down, you will not kill a threat. You will destroy the only proof that peace can grow in the soil of old enemies. Alara raised her hand, the soft hum of her alien energy flowing through the broadcast. Come if you must, but know this. We will not hide, and our child will not be erased. The galaxy did not respond with cheers. It responded with ships. The Andarieli battle cruiser Zephyros appeared first, dropping from hyperspace like a winged dagger. Earth's orbital defense grid detected it immediately, and within minutes the skies above the planet bristled with weapons. Inside the station, alarms blared. Raiden pulled Alara into the command center. They're hailing us, said the tech officer. Put it through, Raiden growled. General Rel's face filled the screen, eyes glowing with fury. Return her. Now. Raiden stepped forward. She stays. Rel's snarl deepened. Then your station burns. Before the officer could respond, a second signal pinged the deck. New contact, shouted a crewman. Unidentified vessel, coming in fast. It's not human, not Andarielli either. The screen split. Another face appeared. Feline features, bright yellow eyes, thick silver fur and battle armor that bore the crest of the Cytherian nomad clans, a neutral but notoriously powerful race of mercenaries. The Cytherian commander grinned. Apologies for the interruption, friends, but we intercepted your broadcast. Seems you've done what none of us dared. Raiden narrowed his eyes. And? The Cytherian leaned closer. And we like it. We're parking our fleet between yours. Anyone fires, we fire back. Gasps rippled through the control room. Rel stared at the Cytherian commander in disbelief. You would risk war for them? I'd risk it for the child, the Cytherian said, because what you fear, we see as hope. More signals followed. Dear Tulari Council, the Victory engineers. Even a rogue Terran colony from Jupiter. One by one, races from across the stars declared neutrality, protection, or support for the unborn hybrid. Hours later, Ilara sat alone in the quiet observation deck. The stars shimmered with warships, but none moved. She could feel the child within her now, stronger, faster. Raiden entered silently. He held something behind his back. She looked up, curious. What is it? He brought it forward. A necklace. Simple. A polished stone from Earth, laced in an Andarielli strand of light vine. I had it made. For you. And for what we've started. She touched it gently. Thank you. Raiden knelt before her. Not as a warrior, not as a protector, but as a man. And with no ceremony. No audience, he whispered. Whatever comes next, I choose you. Not because of the child, but because when I'm with you I remember who I am. Tears formed in her eyes. Not of fear, but of something new. Love. And far above them, across a galaxy still uncertain, a seed had been planted. Not by force, not by law, but by choice, and that would be their greatest weapon. The blood-packed silence never lasted long in the void. 3 weeks passed since the galactic broadcast. Earth's orbit became a standoff zone, warships idling like predators unsure which way to strike. Beneath their humming hulls, the space station, Concord Dawn, had become both fortress and sanctuary. Inside, Princess Ilara's pregnancy progressed rapidly, accelerated by her unique Andarielli physiology. What should have taken a year was unfolding in months. The child grew stronger by the day, and so did the threats for all the species declaring neutrality. More remained silent, watching, plotting. Not everyone wanted peace. Some wanted power. The first hint of betrayal came from within. Raiden was reviewing defense schematics when his aide, Captain Maeve Kirchner, burst in. Her voice was sharp. We have a problem. Raiden looked up instantly. What kind? She handed him a tablet. Internal sensor logs. Someone accessed Princess Ilara's quarters last night, unauthorized. Raiden's blood ran cold. How the hell did they get past security? That's just it, Maeve whispered. The logs were wiped, scrubbed clean. We recovered fragments only because I flagged her quarters for deep monitoring after the threats last week. He stared at the screen. The intruder wore a stealth suit, human make. Not alien, not Andarielli, one of their own. Raiden's jaw tightened. Alert level red. Lock the station down. No one gets in or out. Ilara didn't flinch when she heard the news. Instead, she cradled her abdomen protectively, feeling the slow pulse of life within her. I knew they'd come. Raiden sat across from her in the dim-lit quarters. It wasn't an outsider. It was someone with clearance. Her voice turned low. Then they're closer than we thought. Too close, Raiden muttered. We'll move you to the inner vault. Triple security. Medical will come to you. No. He blinked. What? She stood tall, luminous in the soft light. I will not hide while others decide my fate. My child is not a secret, and I will not let them believe I'm afraid. Raiden stood too, the steel in his voice matching hers. It's not fear, it's preparation. You're not just a symbol anymore, Elara, you're a target. She stepped toward him, eyes fierce. Then let them try, and let them see what a mother will do. That night the assassin struck. Aboard the command deck, all seemed routine, until the emergency alarm screamed. Explosion in corridor C7. Near the medical wing, Raiden was already running. He arrived seconds later to find the hallway scorched and cracked. 2 guards dead, 1 medtech barely breathing. The inner vaults had been breached. Elara, he roared, sprinting into the smoke. He found her kneeling, blood on her face, 1 arm clutched to her stomach. Beside her lay a body, a human assassin, dead, and Elara's fingers glowed with pulsing light. Raiden knelt beside her. You're hurt. He came for the child, she whispered. But I stopped him. Raiden looked at the corpse. The assassin's eyes were wide with terror. His armor cracked from within like something had shattered him from the inside. What did you do? Raiden asked. Elara looked down at her stomach. I didn't do anything. The baby did. They moved her to the medical wing immediately. Every sensor, every scan, every gene map was reviewed 100 times, and the results changed everything. The child wasn't just alive, it was awakening. Dr. Annika Vo, chief xenobiologist, stood pale-faced at the readout. This is impossible. What is it? Raiden asked. Neuroelectric patterns are forming at 10 times normal speed. It's interfacing with Elara's nervous system. Reflexively, protectively. But that's not all. She tapped a scan. This fetus is emitting low-frequency gravitational pulses. Raiden blinked. You mean, like a black hole? No, more like a beacon, a call. To who? We don't know. Far across the stars, someone heard it. In the ancient ruins of Sereth's Vale, a race long thought extinct stirred from hibernation. Tall, shadowy figures uncoiled from crystalline tombs. They had once ruled empires before the stars had names, and now something called them back. They didn't speak. They only moved. Toward the source. Back on the station, Elara lay resting, a nutrient, line flowing into her arm. But her mind burned with visions. She saw flames licking the sky. She saw Andarieli cities reduced to ash. She saw humans, Raiden, kneeling in chains. And above it all, a voice echoed. Not her own, not the child's, but something older, malevolent, drawn to power. She gasped awake. Raiden was by her side instantly. Another vision. They're coming, she whispered. Who? She touched her temples. Something ancient, something wrong. They want the child, not to kill it, but to control it. He nodded grimly. Then we stopped them first, she looked up. No, I stopped them. The station couldn't survive another direct attack. Not from within, not from the stars. So Elara made a choice. She called the High Chamber of Andariel, not with fear, not with apology, but with strength. Her image appeared across Andarieli systems, broadcast directly to their minds in a rare psionic link. I am Elara, daughter of the core flame, bearer of the light vine blood, and heir of unity. My child lives, and in its life is your salvation or your judgment. She paused, letting her glow expand. Come if you wish. But know this. I will not bow to politics. I will not return to cages. I carry the future, and I will defend it with my life. Millions watched, billions listened, but only a few understood. This wasn't a message. It was a declaration of war. Raiden found her afterward, hands still trembling from the intensity of the link. You just declared yourself a sovereign, he said. She looked at him. No, I declared the child sovereign. He hesitated. That makes you a rebel. I was already a traitor the moment I chose peace. They were quiet for a moment, Then Alara asked, "Do you regret it? Us?" Raiden stepped closer, reaching to take her hand. "Not for a second. But they'll come for you too now. Earth Command, the Senate, the fringe colonies. They won't see a father, just a conspirator." "I've been called worse," he said. She smiled faintly. "Then we make it official." Raiden blinked. "What?" She opened her palm. A glowing cut formed across it, an ancient Andarieli rite. "A blood pact," she said. "Not marriage. Deeper. A joining of purpose." Raiden stared, then drew his own blade, slicing his hand without hesitation. Their blood mingled in the air, shimmering with gold and red. "I swear it," he said. "To the child. To you. To whatever comes." As their hands clasped, a pulse shot out from them, and across the galaxy, a new star flickered to life. In the blackness between galaxies, the ancient race, the Vral, felt the change. One among them opened obsidian eyes and whispered in a forgotten tongue, "The heir awakens. Bring the crucible." And their world ship turned, not for war, for harvest.